Let's cover quickly, folks, some more data debunking Brianna Tyler Cohen's red state, blue state homicide pap, as if every county in every red state and every county and city and every blue state is homogenous. Again, very sloppy research. I don't know if you can even call it. Now, I added some data, some more data from two high homicide red states, Louisiana and Texas. Now, getting data by parish in Louisiana for the big ones, the large parishes, is easy, but it's harder for the, because there's a lot of parishes in Louisiana that Trump won that would be considered backwater, backwoods, podunk parishes. So I'm not sure if the homicide rate I have for those is correct, but for what it's worth, and I'm not going to name off all the parishes Trump won with 60% or more, because there's a boatload of them, and I'm not going to do that. But for the dementia patient in Chillery, it was St. John the Baptist Parish, Orleans, and East Carroll. They had a homicide rate, and I poured through a lot of Louisiana data, and they don't make it easy. If they did it like Michigan or Texas did, or even Pennsylvania, those are three states where it's easy to get that data by county or a city if you want. And Louisiana, it's like they just make it difficult. But anyways, for 2017, 2019, and 2020, those super duper Democrat parishes had a homicide rate in Louisiana of 38.534 per 100,000, which is way above the national average, way above Louisiana's average. So you can see it's the parishes, the super duper Democrat parishes in Louisiana that are causing the homicide rate to spike. Now, when I compiled them for the Trump parishes, some of them are metro and some of them aren't. And when I came up with the 2020 data, I knew it was lowballed. I knew it was wrong. Just not good data. So what I did is I substituted the 2017 total, which was the highest total. I had 148 homicides in 2017, 114 in 2019, and then 2020 I got 52. That's not right. So what I did is if I assumed they had 148 homicides in 2020, that would give them 410 collective homicides. Those parishes had a homicide rate of 5.148 per 100,000, which is much lower than Louisiana average and slightly lower than the national average. So if I did lowball it, it's not by a whole lot. So, and I can't remember if I've mentioned this or not, but the arrests for violent crime in Louisiana, disproportionately black. Louisiana is only 32.8% black, but you're going to find out that the violent crime offenders, those arrested for violent crime in Louisiana, when you can find data on that, well over 50% of them are black. So it's not in the pro-Trump whitey parishes, and there's some parishes in Louisiana that were pro-Trump and had high homicide rates, but it's blacks killing blacks. And I even included some data on inmate lists. I urge you, follow the links I did for like Lafayette Parish and look who they've got. Some jails, not very often does this happen, but some sheriff's offices will collate the data by race. So you can see if they've got 1,000 detainees and 20% of the county is black and half the people in there for violent crime that have been arrested for carjacking, burglary, beating people up, setting crap on fire. Well, that's an eye-opening data. I did some for other podunk counties, some in Mississippi. Rapides Parish is another one you need to look at. I've got all the links there. See the links in the video description, and then you can go to that data. And wow, that will be an eye-opening experience for you people, let me tell you. Then I took a look at Texas. Now, this was a Herculean task because Texas has boatload of counties, well over 200. And Texas has got a ton of podunk rural counties in West Texas that voted overwhelmingly for Trump that have not a lot of people, but there's tons of them. So what I did is I finally went through all that data. But here's something you need to hear real quick. Keep in mind, Texas is it was 12.8% black in the 2010 census and 13.2% in 2020, and Texas is 5.5% Asian. In 2020, of all the arrests for violent crime, that's murder and non-negligent manslaughter, rape, robbery, and aggravated assault, in 2020, 37.72% of the arrestees were black. 0.8% of the arrestees were Asian. Blacks were 45.36% of the arrestees in Texas for murder, 45 0.36% of them were black for murder. And for Asians, it was 0.7%. I wonder why. Why is that? Is that because Asians have a more stable home life? Maybe. In 2019, 37.91% of the arrestees for violent crime were black, and only 0.87% of the arrestees were Asian. Asians were 0.8% of the arrestees for murder. Blacks were 47.43% of the arrestees for murder. In 2018 in Texas, 35.53% of the arrestees for violent crime were black. 0.92% were Asian. Asians were 0.76% of the arrestees for murder. Blacks were 41.63% of the arrestees for murder. I go a little bit further. You get the point. Of all the counties in Texas that voted 60% or more for the creep, Joe Biden, and Mrs. Bill Clinton, they had a homicide rate of 6.661 per 100,000 from 2018 to 2020. Much higher than the national average, much higher than the Texas average. Now, when Brianna Tyler Cohen did this, Texas had a huge spike in homicide in 2020. Now, if he'd done this in 2016, Texas's homicide rate was lower than the national average. They had a huge spike in 2020, so that's why Brianna cherry-picked that year. Well, I don't think he did. I think whoever handed it to him did, because I don't think he's smart enough to do that. But anyways, those counties that voted 60% or more for Biden or Hillary, homicide rate of 6.661 per 100,000 from 2018 to 2020. And there's not that many counties, so I can name those: Dallas, Dimmitt, El Paso, Presidio, Travis, Webb, and Zavala. Now, I'm not going to name all the counties that voted for Trump twice, 60% or more, because I'd be here for a half an hour. But those counties from 2018 to 2020 had a homicide rate of 3.989 per 100,000. Texas's homicide rate 2018 to 2020 was 5.366 per 100,000, slightly lower than the national average. So you can see, disproportionately, blacks are being arrested for violent crime and murder in Texas, and the counties that are causing the homicide rate to go way up in Texas are the pro-Biden, pro-Hillary counties. Don't thank me now for the information. That was free. And enjoy it. Pass it on. If Brianna Tyler Cohen tries his blue state red helmet, or somebody starts passing off his crap, because they do that. There's a lot of autistic that will just pass it. Oh, here's a red state's got a homicide right here. I didn't look at any of the data. Oh, gotta go brush my teeth now. If you see any of them trying to pass that off, you can know it's BS. Have a nice day, and don't thank me now.